Thanks for joining us on another edition of the AFL Europe podcast and another segment of the Irish Down Under series. This week, to discuss her first season involved in the AFLW is Bríd Stack from the GWS Giants. Bríd, thank you so much for your time and welcome to the podcast.
No bother, Jim. Thanks for having me on.
When you look back, it's the season's flown by for us. How does it feel for you looking back? The season's done.
Yeah, I can't get over how quickly the season moves here from the start of the first game. Once it starts, it just is rapid fire. And to think that the 9 weeks just are gone by and that a grand final is already done and dusted, and there's new AFL champions. It's been a wonderful season, but my God, it moves very fast compared to, I suppose, our GA season at home. So I think next year is it up to 10 games, I think next year. So incrementally, the season will surely get longer, and I suppose there's plenty of people here that would love to see it get longer too.
Bríd, obviously we've loads to talk about from the season just passed in relation to yourself, but just for the people watching at this stage of the year, I suppose, what does it look like? The season's over, there's exit interviews happening at the clubs. Where is it at in terms of how that procedure works? Are all the formal activities done and dusted now? Are you still in and out of the clubs? How does it look at the end of the season so people get an idea of how it all finishes for the individual players?
So I couldn't get over how quickly it actually all turns around. So once kind of game 9 was done for us, unfortunately didn't make finals, so it meant that was the end of the season. So within the a couple of days of it, so the match was played on Sunday, and by Tuesday I had my meeting with Alan, the head coach. I had my exit meeting with the physios, and on the Thursday I had my exit meeting with the doctor. So by Thursday it was everything signed and sealed, and everyone kind of marked off, and everyone saying goodbye to each other until kind of the whole gang met up again at the weekend, which was great. We had kind of a football trip away up the coast, which was it was hairy enough at times, but it was mighty crack. And sure, it was lovely just to meet up with everyone again, because you get a bit of withdrawal, I think, when you're in such close quarters with people for such a long period of time. So I suppose, taking into account we were in a hub as well beforehand, so we were living in each other's pockets in the hub. We were 2 weeks in Albury, we were a week in Adelaide. We were due to be 2 weeks in Adelaide, but we came back to Sydney a bit early. And then you're straight into a season where you're seeing people 5, 6, 7 times a week, which is just brilliant for team bonding and team morale. And then for it to just stop all of a sudden, it's really, really surreal. But thankfully I have a super support network around here. I'm living very close to Cora, and she lives with 2 of the girls on the team, Tanya and Parker. So I see them constantly, and we constantly meet up in the club, and we're still allowed into the club and to do our gym sessions and our running sessions and stuff if we feel up to it and if we feel we want to do it. And I actually met with the strength conditioning fella today, so it was great to meet up with him, and he's kind of set me a program now for the next couple of weeks, just to make sure that everything is fully rehabbed and I'm fully strong going home, so that I'm in a position to I suppose take up with the club when I go home. But it's unreal. But the head coach has been absolutely unbelievable, Alan McConnell, and he's checked in with me a couple of times, and we go for kicking sessions 2 or 3 times a week, which is brilliant. And I've actually started going out now with Cora and Parker and Tanya out to the East Coast Eagles. So they're a club team here in Sydney. So just doing a little bit of training with them. Not allowed fully back to non-contact yet. The surgeon is still just holding on to me by the fingernails. So just going out training with them twice a week, and just really enjoying the whole experience. But just trying to soak up as much of it as I can before we head home.
Bríd, obviously, for anyone that's been a fan of AFLW, you will know that you're involved in that incident in a pre-season game that effectively ruled you out of the season with that neck injury. How's it all going, and when do you feel like you'll be back to be able to, if the season was still going, when do you think you'd be able to get back to that full activity?
Well, I suppose I feel perfect at the moment. I feel great. The issue was that the season was so short, so I was pushing the surgeon to go for an earlier scan. So because I pushed for an earlier scan to, I suppose, get myself in contention of being able to play the last 2 rounds. Because I pushed for that scan, and unfortunately it showed up that the break wasn't fully healed. It meant that I had 3 scans kind of very, very close together, so in close succession. So because of that, he has made me wait maybe 6 weeks longer than I should have for my rescan. So like, while I feel absolutely perfect now, and I could definitely go play a game now, I can't get signed off until he sees that scan. So that's on the 6th of May. So looking forward to that date, and looking forward to getting the all clear. But feeling great, and I did an awful amount of rehab. So still feeling very fit and healthy, which is great, and just, I suppose, enjoying the experience now for what it is.
Bríd, just to take you back, I suppose. Obviously, it's been a roller coaster season, as you've said, with the pre-season delayed, COVID, lockdowns, flights, quarantine, that whole issue there. And we did a lot of work here in Ireland before you headed over, of course. And you did as much prep as you could. You hit the ground. When you eventually got out of quarantine and everything, you hit the oval. You got stuck into it, no doubt. We're soaking up everything you could. For that to happen then in that pre-season game must have had a huge impact, obviously, on your plans. But we saw your diary in the Irish Examiner here across the last 3 months, and it's been an enthralling read, in fairness. Did that help you in some way to be able to put it all down on paper as to how you were feeling and how you were dealing with the whole situation?
Yeah, and as you said, Mike, I have to, first of all, thank you for the amount of time and effort that you gave me before myself, Cork and Cork Oak headed over. I suppose I was meeting up with you twice a week, and the amount of time and effort you gave me was just, I could never thank you enough. And I really feel that I was coming over with a good skill set, which was important. I could look after the fitness side of things, I could look after the strength side of things, but I definitely needed a lot of coaching and a lot of help. And you were just instrumental in that, and I'm forever indebted to you for that. So when I did come over and we finally did get out of quarantine, we were gymming and training throughout the whole quarantine. The strength conditioning coach sent us on stuff, so we did everything to the letter of the law. And I was constantly over and back to Cora, and she was in the room like 2 doors down from me, but weren't able to meet up, but constantly onto each other and kind of giving each other support. And when we got out then, for, I suppose, the plans to be kind of scuppered, we went to Melbourne, and I actually did 2 sessions with the girls in Melbourne, because there was a reported case, maybe it was very low numbers, it might have been maybe 2 or 3 cases in Sydney. So we were advised by the club to stay in Melbourne. We met up with a few of the girls that were Melbourne based, and we had 2 sessions, and I was just absolutely loving it. Like, loved meeting up with a couple of the girls, got to know them in kind of a smaller space, which was lovely before kind of the whole team experience. And then before we knew it, we were being diverted to Albury, and I met the whole team, which is unreal. So I had 2.5 weeks of unbelievable training with the girls. Really hit the ground running. It's gas. They're very, very controlled in terms of the strength conditioning, in terms of kind of slowly releasing you back to kind of full throttle. And I'm sure a lot of the girls probably touched on that when they got out of quarantine. It's very much like managing load. So I was itching for road, and I was bursting myself and all. So I kept getting a tap on the shoulder going, pull out now or take it handy now. And, all I wanted to do was just hit the ground running and learn as much as I could. And, the backs coach, Darren Ratton, was brilliant and took me for loads of extra sessions to do, things like learning how to bump, how to tackle, all this type of stuff. And, I just was soaking everything up like sponge. I felt like I was, 11 years old again, like just taking it all in, and just enjoyed it so much. And then we were due to go to Adelaide to play Adelaide in our test match. So unfortunately, the series of events that led to the Adelaide game meant that preparation wasn't what it should have been. There was a lot of uncertainty kind of the 2 days before we got to Adelaide, and then unfortunately we had a missed flight, we had a delayed flight, and we landed into Adelaide really late the night before, and then to wake up in the morning and there was a couple more preparations that were out of our control and just kind of upscuppered us a small little bit. So, when we got to the field, I made sure I was fully tuned in and, absolutely really thriving off the energy that I was getting from the girls. And look, the match went the way it was. I suppose I made sure that I started with a good intensity, and I felt I was doing that, and I wasn't standing off or standing back off anything, and just trying to, I suppose, use the skills that you had taught me as best I could. And I was playing well, so I was absolutely delighted with how it was going. And then look, probably I wasn't supposed to play the last quarter, but I was going well enough, so they decided to play me, and kind of my undoing came then in the last minute. But look, it was a very unfortunate incident. I suppose, I was absolutely devastated that it was, that my season had kind of finished before it had even gotten a chance to kind of start. And I could not thank a group of girls that I had only known 2.5 weeks for what they did for me, over the next 12 weeks. It was just unbelievable, and they're just phenomenal people, and it's a unbelievable club to be part of, and I'm so proud to be part of the Giants Club. And I got a phone call from Tony Lean, and he asked me, I suppose after the whole tribunal thing, if I was interested in kind of putting pen to paper about it. And I suppose, I was a bit upset after the whole tribunal thing. So I kind of said, look, this is my chance. And I kind of got a lot of what I wanted to say out, and ran it by the Giants media as well, because they've been so wonderful, and I just wanted to make sure that I wasn't doing them a disservice. And look, it kind of then took a bit of traction. Tony asked me would I do a series of them, and actually, at the start when he first asked me, it was the furthest thing from my mind. I wanted to get I suppose after the tribunal, I wanted to get my point across, and that was grand, and I had kind of drawn a line at then. But as the weeks went on, I'm actually delighted now that I wrote down kind of the process, because it'll be lovely to look back on and to remember kind of, I suppose the resilience that I shown, and that I was what I got through, and I suppose the experience of it all. Like, life is full of good and bad experiences, and it's important to go through the bad ones and come out the other side and take them for what they were. And I've learned so much about myself over the course of the last couple of weeks, and I'm thankful for the whole experience, to be honest. So it's been an experience. All right.
When you, after the injury, Bríd, how did you sort of refocus to make sure you got the most out of the year as what you possibly could? I guess obviously you probably, it was a long shot to play for at any point throughout the year. So what did you try and focus on? Who did you try and stick yourself to learn as much as you can? So maybe next year or the year after you can have another go at it.
And I suppose maybe naively, I didn't think my season was over. So I have never been badly injured before, so I wouldn't have any idea really of timelines and things like that. And in my head, if you had a broken bone, it was 6 weeks. Like, that was the way I was, which is probably very silly, looking back at it now. But I surrounded myself with phenomenal people, and even my husband Corrick, he's had a couple of serious injuries, so having him kind of guide me and keep my mindset strong, and keep kind of reminding me of just little steps every day. And I suppose just the importance of setting myself little goals, weekly goals, bi-weekly goals, monthly goals. And I think by doing that, that definitely kind of gave me a motivation every single week. I still had it in my head that I wanted to return and that I wanted to get back. And I kept pitching for kind of round 8, round 9. And look, it didn't happen. But, as I said, I had wonderful people around me, and, no more so than Cora Staunton. And I suppose her, serious injury was documented very well, 2 years ago when it happened, and, people ruled her out, that she'd never ever come back to play. And I suppose she just showed me, through we plenty chats anyway over the first couple of days, when, it was a very challenging first couple of days. And, she was sitting beside me, just talking me through kind of everything that happened when she got her injury. And like I said, having people like that who have gone through kind of serious injury and, have come back, and you see the importance of her mindset. And it was definitely all about mindset. I suppose once the injury happened and once kind of the recovery started, it was all down to mindset then after that.
We were actually chatting to Cora a couple of weeks ago, Bríd, and obviously one of the things she mentioned we discussed both your serious injuries and the rehab from that, and she kind of jokingly touched on that all the Aussies and all the people at the club think the Irish are a bit mad at how you guys attack rehab and just get stuck into it and are so driven and focused and all that, and that's a great trait to have. And obviously we've heard last week that you've been offered another contract for next season, and I know you're going to have to take some time to think about that or whatever, but obviously that's again a huge reflection of the value the club have in you and your contribution to the season, albeit not getting to play the games you wanted to play. So you did have a huge impact at the club for the year, and obviously it was great having Corey there, and to have girls of your experience and leadership quality there, it must be great for the other players around you.
Yeah, it was. And I suppose what was probably driving me the most is that, I had still so much to prove to these girls on the field. They'd only seen me for, one game, just shy of a full game. So, while they did see that I brought huge intensity and probably a lot of drive to that game, that was just one game. And I wanted to prove to them, that I was so committed to the club, and I wanted what was best for the club on and off the field. So I suppose, I made it a point that I was meticulous in what I was doing on and off the field. I suppose, I trained extremely hard during the rehab, and they commented on it, and they I suppose, they encouraged me all the way, and they couldn't believe it when I was back, I suppose week 8 training. They just couldn't believe that I was out on the field with everyone, albeit wearing a red cap. So the red cap signifies that I was a non-contact player, but they just couldn't believe that I was out and I was in a position, only maybe 7 weeks previous that I wasn't kind of able to move my neck. So I suppose they saw that, and Alan, he definitely commented on my mindset and my drive, and that other people seem to feed off it in the club, which was lovely to hear. And I suppose, when we did get the news kind of week 6, well, no, it was actually probably it was start of week 7, that I wasn't going to be in contention. He saw a relationship that I was with the younger players, and he kind of put me kind of in a mentor role with a lot of the younger players, which I absolutely loved. I love being around people. I love being around young people, especially. And I had absolutely great fun. So there was plenty of organising of extra kind of touch sessions and everything in the cage, and made sure I was there early and made sure I was at absolutely everything, and encouraging everyone as best I could. And towards the last couple of weeks, I don't know where the physio is going mental, but I was just getting the ball and kicking the ball into the girls and stuff like that. Like, so I loved it. I loved being involved in the environment. I really did thrive in it, and I would love to have seen how the year would have gone if I wasn't injured. So like you said, look, there's plenty to take, I suppose, plenty to think about. Alan was very forthcoming in saying he was interested in me again next year, which was, I suppose, beyond my wildest dreams, because I thought that was it. My chance was scuppered. But I suppose on the other side, I'm not a 22-year-old, and I'm not like footloose and fancy free, and I have a lot of people to consider, and I have a business to consider at home as well, and a family to consider. So look, there'll be a few hard conversations, no doubt, when we get back to Cork. But for now, I'm just really enjoying the experience and learning as much as I can from him.
First off, Bríd, congratulations on getting another offer. It's a fantastic achievement, and good luck with the decision on whatever happens next. But I was just going to ask, what's the sort of plan for the next sort of month or two? You said you're training with the local Sydney side. Do you think you might get a game snuck in with them, or are you focusing on getting home pretty quickly? What's the plans for the next few weeks?
I'd say no. I'd say there'll be no games now. We'll definitely, we joined in all the trainings, and training with Alan, which I absolutely love. And I got on to TR as well, the strength conditioning coach. So I met him tonight, and he set me a brilliant program now for the next 6 weeks. So the plan is, where our lease is up here in the house in Sydney, kind of around the 10th of May. So our plan is, I suppose, to do a small bit of traveling while we can for maybe 2 or 3 weeks. And the club have kind of sent us on a couple of flight options for the end of May, start of June. So I suppose start of June is when we're looking to head home. And look, hopefully there won't be too many issues with flights. I know the flights might be there now, and hopefully they won't get pulled, but that would be the plan, to head home in June. And we've plenty family to see, and there's a small boy who's grown up a lot over here, so there'll be a lot of grandparents and a lot of family that are mad to see him. So we'll have to go home. We'll have to go home at the start of June, and just enjoying it now for the next couple of weeks.
Bríd, obviously, just back to the football side of it, I'm sure you watched the grand final. We had Ailish and Orla at our kicking sessions down here in UL before you headed over. Both brilliant girls, brilliant athletes. What did you think of the grand final, and I suppose in general how the Irish girls did across the whole season?
Yeah, so we were, as I said, we had our football trip away this weekend, so we were all watching it together, which was lovely. And I suppose it was just brilliant to see Ireland so well represented with the two girls. And like Orla, I suppose, watching her this season, she's been a revelation, and she's just improved. Like I suppose I was watching a lot of her games last year, but my God, she has just become a force to be reckoned with this year for Brisbane, and an integral part of their team. And I was delighted to see her do so well. And for her to win a grand final is just, I suppose, the thing of dreams. And to be doing it, I suppose, in Adelaide Oval, which is a phenomenal ground, is just, it's just absolutely unbelievable for her and for her family. And, it was lovely to hear her mom speak so nicely of her as well beforehand. So, I'm sure there's Tipperary and her family and her community are very, very proud of her, having excelled in 3 different codes now, which is just, absolutely outstanding stuff. And then I suppose it's very important to mention Ailish, who's, the only Irish player that's actually played in 2 grand finals. And Ailish is probably my big kicking buddy when I was with you, before we came over. And Ailish is just the kindest person. She, even when we were doing a lot of the kicking sessions, a lot of it might have been basic for me, but she went out of her way as well, helping for me to get the basics where she had them down, and she was just an unbelievable talent. And her kicking ability is just second to none. And I suppose, look, she had a tough couple of weeks, maybe. Once she got concussed, she actually got concussed in our game versus the Giants, and I suppose unfortunately then was kind of ruled out the next week. And Adelaide Crows are just an unbelievable team, and for to try to get back into the setup, for her to get back in grand final day was just, that's just some feat. And I was absolutely delighted to see her name on the team sheet, and sent her a message, sent both the girls a message. But I was particularly delighted for Ailish after a tough couple of weeks, and to see her out there, and as I said, in her second grand final is just, it's some feat for Ailish. And the grand final was just, I thought it was outstanding. Like, it was so exciting. It was ferocious. I suppose I would have probably have tipped Adelaide Crows, given, what I'd seen of them during the year. Brisbane are an extremely balanced team, but, I don't know, would Adelaide Crows just tip it for me, physicality wise, experience wise, strength wise. And my God, did Brisbane come to town? Like, they were just ferocious. They just set the tempo from the very start, and just cut out so many of Adelaide's key players. Nullified their influence on the game. And when you did that for the full 4 quarters, which they did, they were so deserving of the win. So it was super grand final, super to see it.
What were your thoughts on some of the other girls' performances throughout the season, scattered around the different clubs, the girls in Melbourne and the girls over in Perth as well?
Yeah, I suppose the first player that I got onto was Anya Tai, because, she was, I done a couple of sessions with Anya as well, up in Limerick. So, I was really willing her to have a super year, because she's such a lovely person, and she would have just been instrumental as a rock for Fremantle. And we actually, she got injured the week before I got injured. So, you know, I was on to her a good bit at the start. So unfortunately for Anya, you know, she wasn't in contention to play for Fremantle this year, but she's a super talent. And I know, you know, if Fremantle know how dedicated she is and how determined she is to make sure that she fully recovers, you know, hopefully we'll see Anya back with Fremantle again next year. And then looking at the girls that were involved with West Coast, you know, they were their standout players. Like, it was just absolutely brilliant to see the girls and to see them linking up as well, which is just so typically, I suppose, ladies football, linking up with each other, and just the supervision, and you know, they really played to their strengths. Aisling was absolutely outstanding around the middle, and you know, just fell shy of being West Coast best and fairest on her very first year, which is absolutely outstanding. And Grace and Neve are real scoring threats up front. And I suppose Neve being named as most courageous was, you know, just a testament, I suppose, to the Irish girls and what they're doing over there in West Coast. So I'd say we've a long couple of years watching those girls do well, I think, over in West Coast. And to see Sarah and Aisling do so well in Collywood, like, they were again outstanding. Again, watching them link up, you can tell that they were used to playing with each other again with DCU and down through the years, and great friends. And you know, for Collingwood, I suppose they had a super year. They built super momentum, and they really are a growing club. So great to see the two girls doing well. And then I suppose my standout player for the year in the Irish was probably Sinead Goldrick. You know, I just absolutely love watching Sinead play. I love watching her play football, and I think I nearly prefer watching her play AFL. She's just unbelievable. She's just like a terrier going after the ball. She's just unbelievable. Like, she's ferocious. She's just super tenacity, and her skills and her awareness. She brought so much experience, I think, to Melbourne, and, you know, is really shown to be an integral part of their team. So again, unfortunate to get an injury. No doubt she was a huge loss to Melbourne as they entered you know, the final stages. But it was wonderful to see her play, and I think you could, you know, if you had a camera on her and show the amount of pressure that she was putting on teams, you know, she was really, really outstanding. To see Lauren McGee then as well in her very first year, like Lauren, like, I at least had 2 weeks of training. Poor old Lauren was straight out of quarantine and straight into the first set of matches and trying to get into a team. And, you know, she got into the team, fair play to her, and she held on to her position. And you know, like, I suppose you'd love to see that she's going to be a player to come for Melbourne. So it's just been brilliant watching everyone, watching Ailish, watching Orla. And as I said, look, I've said it numerous times, I love seeing the Irish do well. I love that they're displaying their skills and showing how skillful that they are, and how easily that they have transferred a lot of their skills. It's wonderful to see, and long may it continue.
Absolutely, Bríd. I think it's been a great season for the Irish players. Everyone has a fantastic story. You have a fantastic story yourself, even though the season didn't pan out as planned. But hopefully we'll see you back next year or soon, and all the other Irish girls as well. And we'd Cora on a few weeks ago. She mentioned we were slagging her about her book. I think you have a book to be written already after season one. So we look forward to that maybe at some stage as well. But
and like you talk of Cora actually there, Mike, as well. Like, I mentioned most of the girls. I omitted Cora, you know. But,
yeah. That wasn't deliberate, Cora, for sure. She's got enough plaudits anyway.
It certainly
was. Look, we're going to do another little feature in a minute, but we're just to close off this section of the podcast, I suppose. Bríd, thanks so much for taking the time. We could talk for another hours and trawling to listen to you. It's been fantastic supporting you and the lads across the season, regardless of how it went, as I said. And we look forward to hopefully seeing you and all the other amazing Irish athletes back in action in AFLW next season as well. So thanks a million.
Super. Thank you.
With the AFLW season done and dusted, we thought we'd look back at some of the highlights from the AFLW Irish players and their 10 moments that really caught our eye throughout the course of the season. We've called in the help of GWS and Bríd Stack. Bríd, thanks very much for helping us out. Mike, you've got the new ball, so start us off with the number 10 highlight, and we'll work our way down to number 1.
Well, Jim, of course, and look, there's been such a season of highlights. I suppose just before we start into it, it's fair to say there was a short list of well over 20-25 highlights that we found no problem here. The Irish girls have been fantastic for all the teams all through the season. Some of the highlights that didn't make the cut but are notable of a mention are multiple involvements from Ash Mack, Aileen Gilroy's bounce, Ailish Constantine's set shot goal, Niamh Kelly's sprint from 50 metres, Aileen Gilroy's sidestep, multiple involvements from Orla O'Dwyer. We could go on all day, but we had to make some decisions on it. So starting it off at number 10, we have got Grace Kelly's goal in round 7 against the Cats, which involved the 3 Irish players together. Ash Mack centering the ball, Niamh Kelly gathering, playing on to an advantage, passing to Grace, and a great goal for Grace. In that particular game, the Kellys combined for 4 goals and 30 touches, and that was the first win in a West Coast Eagles jersey for Ash McCarthy.
Yeah, sensational effort from the girls there, linking up through the forward half of the ground there. I've got number 9, and it is the first from Cora Staunton, and this one probably not catching the eye of too many people throughout the season, but this one is just outstanding, and it's a tackle in round 8 against Geelong. The biggest thing that catches your eye is the score and the time left of the game, and it's late in the game, and her ability to run down that 50-odd metres and effect a perfect tackle. If Geelong had gone in forward there, and it might have been a very different result for the Giants. Bríd, you might be able to touch on that. It was an outstanding individual effort to save what could have been a goal that really tightened up the game.
Big time. And I suppose the big thing for me is I actually would nearly put that higher up the list, because the tackle is alien to our game. So for her to, make that unbelievable run, know that it was do or die, and she had to make that tackle. And even like chatting to her afterwards, she was like, there was no way that she would have had the turn of pace to turn and actually, tackle the player the second time. So she said she had one chance to do it, and, she didn't miss. My God, what a tackle. And, it was really melting pot stuff. So brilliant from Cora.
You got number 8, and Orla O'Dwyer makes her first entrance into the top 10.
Yeah, so leading us in at number 8 is Orla O'Dwyer's goal in the preliminary final versus Collingwood. This game was a real game of the season. It was nip and tuck. It was up and down. It was so hotly contested, and I suppose it came at a really, really critical time at the game. And Orla just took the ball on and got it onto her trusty left, and it was just absolutely outstanding from Orla. An integral player for the Brisbane Lions, and was very, very important in getting them to the grand final. I think she scored 2 goals this season, and as I said, she's just such an integral player for them, and so improved this year. So super by Orla.
Absolutely, Bríd. Orla has been sensational all year, and her average disposals per game have jumped from 8 in 2020 to 14 this season. So that's just a stat that shows how significant her improvement has been, and how great that she's now got a premiership medal as well. Okay, we're on to number 7, and this one is Cora, or Scora. 4 goals, round 4 against the Eagles. Absolutely phenomenal. It had it all. Goal 1 included a switch onto her left foot. Goal 2, she did a cheeky play on to advantage after a free for a push in the back, got her goal. Goal 3, soccered off the ground from a stoppage contest. And goal 4 for me was the best of the lot, saved to last. A set shot, the commentator nails it. The run out to the right, the curl on the kick, and the finish, absolutely outstanding. 4 goals for the game, 10 goals overall for the season for Cora. What a performance from her.
I might throw to you on this, Bríd. The commentators at the time were saying how much she'd be loving it and spreading the word around the change rooms. How was it for the rest of the Giants girls after this performance?
Yeah, I suppose the funny thing is, like, the girls on the team give Cora an awful doing about not celebrating her goals. So, like, it's a big thing here that everyone gets around you, and everyone, really gets in and celebrates their goals, whereas Cora just runs away from people and kind of gives maybe one high five. So, we were really saying that she really celebrated the last one. It was just an absolute classic goal. I suppose it's something that wouldn't be foreign on a ladies football pitch as well. It was just absolutely class, and she was a woman on a mission that day, and I suppose maybe hadn't been getting the eye in score goal wise up to then, and she really put down a marker for the rest of the season, scoring 4 goals in one game.
We move on to number 6, and it comes from Sinead Goldrig from the Melbourne Football Club. It comes from the game in round 7 against the Crows, and this tackle, again, is just outstanding, the way that she was able to stop this Adelaide player dead in her tracks. Really, and it probably helped, Melbourne win the game and go on for that run that got them back into the finals, and a great back half of the season from Melbourne. And this, as tackles go, was just an outstanding effort. And to put your body on the line like that when a player's charging down at you, it is never easy. And she stood her ground and effected a great tackle.
Yeah, and Chloe Shear's she's a strong physical girl, and Goldie, probably wouldn't have the same stature as her, but her tackle technique was absolutely outstanding, and as I said, really put the body in line, and she did that time and time again for Melbourne. So coming in at number 5 is a joint effort from the Kellys. Niamh Kelly with an outstanding run, super handball into Grace, something that they've probably done time and time again with Mayo and with their club. Gave a perfect handball, and then the Shepherd. The Shepherd was absolutely vital for Grace, and put her in a perfect position, gave her that split second just to steady herself, and a super goal from Grace. I think Grace actually had 2 goals at the very end of that game, something like 9 touches for a forward, which was super. And Niamh, I suppose, doing the selfish play, which we've seen, in so many games by Niamh. I think she had 13 touches and 5 tackles in that game, but real selfless play from Niamh and super skill from Grace.
Sure, Bríd, and I think the key in that one was the Shepherd, something that really wouldn't be natural to the Irish players, and for her to do that seemingly so instinctively in that situation was amazing, because that's nearly the hardest part of the game to coach. And we saw super speed and courage from Niamh throughout the season, and even coming back from that horrendous finger injury she had. So absolutely great season from Niamh and both the Kellys. Okay, so we're moving on to number 4, and speaking of linking up, we've got another brilliant link-up goal here. Sarah Rowe's goal for Collingwood in round 2 versus Geelong Cats. Absolutely textbook centre clearance. Brianna Davey straight out of the centre bounce, kicks it in. Ash Sheridan gathers, handball straight to Sarah Rowe, who kicks a brilliant goal off her left. We chatted to Ash on the podcast a few weeks back, and she said she immediately heard Rowe calling her. These girls are so used to each other. She knew exactly where she was. She gave the handball, brilliant goal, and that's how you do it. Bang, straight out of the centre goal.
From a coaching perspective, it's as good as it gets. A quick goal out from a centre clearance you can't draw it up better than that. So moving on to number 3, and it was scorer once again, this time taking on 2 St Kilda players in terrible conditions to initially halve that contest and get it on the ground and running back towards goal. She fought off the Saints defenders, kept the ball under control, all while sprinting inside towards the forward 50 or towards the goal face, and to have the presence of mind to just soccer it through perfectly was just an outstanding individual achievement. And Bríd, I'll throw back to you as the Cora expert. What did you make of this one?
I suppose what maybe mightn't have been very clear on the day was the wind. The wind was absolutely cruel that day. The wet conditions obviously made it, like a bar of soap, but the wind was really, really strong, and there was no goal up that side of the ground. Like the kicks that were going in were nearly, being held in the wind. So, I suppose for Cora, like you said, to have the presence of mind to keep soccering it and use her skill, use her strength, and just, I suppose, follow it in was just classic Cora. I suppose always thinking, and she's such a natural forward. But the win that day, she was bang on soccering it the whole way. So fair play to her. I suppose then coming in at number 2, we actually have just a woman who, really lit up the scoreboards here for Collingwood, I think, this year. Ash Sheridan comes in at number 2 with not only one, but for 2 scores. And I suppose they were probably very similar. But it just shows, I suppose, her consistency throughout the year. It definitely shows her consistency in this game against the Tigers. She set them up with the very first goal, an absolute peach of a goal. She's such a powerful kicker. We've seen her time and time again do it, and no more so than in this game versus the Tigers. An outstanding first effort, and her second one, which was nearly a carbon copy of the first. As I said, her consistency, her ability to back herself, and she was playing with such confidence this year. It was brilliant to see.
Awesome from Ash Sheridan, as you said, Bríd. A real threat for Collingwood up front. 8 goals from the season, time and time again she did the same thing, but it was her work as well in terms of tackle pressure that was outstanding throughout the year. So great to see her goals there in the highlight reel coming in at number 2. Now it's coming up to the big one at number 1, and this one was a hands down winner for me anyway. Aileen Gilroy's bump on McLeod against the Bulldogs, absolutely phenomenal. You could watch this all day long. Amazing skill, perfectly executed, hip and shoulder, running at speed from a distance after a turnover, put the Kangaroos on the back foot. Any margin of error there, and it's a goal for the Bulldogs. The commenter said nobody's going to catch the speedster McLeod. He didn't count on Aileen Gilroy coming in, and it is brilliant. And I think I'm going to watch that highlight on repeat until Stacky and the girls are all back playing next season for sure. That's going to get us through the close season.
That's great, Mike. And Bríd, thanks so much for helping us out with this. It's been a pleasure having you and having your insight. It's been awesome, and good luck for what's to come.
It was lovely to recap on all those wonderful moments from the Irish girls, and as I said, they were real ambassadors for Ireland out here, and really put on a show when they needed to.